Whoa, all four wheels off the ground there in the old dolly. Driving lights nosed into the ground a bit there.
Right on.
Welcome to another episode of the Triumph Dolomite Sprint Rally Car Restoration, and I'm still working on this engine. Working on engines is not my strong suit. In fact, my strong suit's one of the sort of suits you'd buy from a reject shop or a dollar shop. On the other hand, my Wimp suit is a classic, you know, it's top line. At any rate, I digress. Today, or this episode full stop, I'm going to get this back together. And to start off with, the sprocket, timing chains, guides and what have you at the front. Once we've done that, put the sump on properly, and then the head, and well, there you go, we'll have it all back together. So let's get on with it. Okay, we're looking for 20 foot-pounds. Alrighty then. Bit of a delay. Had to go and get some new bolts and some more of this assembly grease. So let's get on with it again, which is all a matter of getting this timing chain cover on. I went searching, found another bolt to put into that bolt hole there. Then I just realised this bolt here, silly person. Never really had them leak much from the sump, really. Sump shouldn't be under pressure, it's only slopping around oil, so. So now, I'll just tension this head down and move on from there. I'll creep up on this. Now these things have an odd tensioning sequence. Most cars that sort of start in the middle, sort of, you know, work your way that way. But these things with their funny head studs and everything, it's not like that. It's sort of middle and sort of bounce along the head, and then start at the bottom, other side row of studs, and do it that way. Now some people might, that's what the workshop manual says, and that's what I've been doing over the years, and I haven't had a lot of the sort of hassle of blown head gaskets that a lot of people, you know, these cars are known for. Yeah, I owned a dolly for a long time and a TR7 for a long time, and the TR7's blown one head gasket. The dolly's blown, dolly blew one when I first got it. There's a breakdown story on my website about that one. and went out. I think it blew another one at Eastern Creek one time. This was all in the early part of me owning cars with this engine out. So in more recent times I haven't blown any head gaskets, but having said that, of course, in more recent times I haven't been using them anywhere near as much as I once did. Well, that was 40 foot-pounds, and we'll now creep it up to its 55, I think. Alright, that's the head tension down. Now, these things are also a matter of starting it up once it's a long way away from now, but once I start the sucker, let it run up to temperature, then I'll turn it off, let it sit overnight and retension the head again, and it'll be quite surprising just how much it'll take. Like, it'll be, you know, quite a bit of movement on the tension wrench to tighten it up, and then it should be right. Now for this great hunk of bloody steel exhaust manifold. Well, we're getting there. It's been a slow process, I have to admit. Next up will be, I might put the engine mounts on perhaps, but pretty well time to, I'll put the tapper cover on. But yeah, the engine will have to come off this stand and start putting the sort of plate doohickey that goes on there, and then the clutch and flywheel and ultimately the gearbox on. Get the whole thing ready to throw in the dolly. But of course the welder hasn't been yet, so it might all come to a stop. I've got the backing plate on, can't find a tension for the bolts, so I've just done them up tight. The other problem I now have is the spigot bearing, or spigot bush, in the end of the crankshaft, and I've packed it all with grease. Got a bolt, a bit of tape around it to make it a nice good fit, not tight but good fit. And I'll try and hydraulic it out. Wish me luck. Well, I did not think that would work. You gotta be lucky. Maybe today's going to be a better day on this engine. Now, it's time to put this flywheel on. It's had me puzzled quite a bit because, well, I've only got 6 bolts and there's only 6 holes in the flywheel. This cover thing here's got 8 holes in it, and there's 8 holes in the crankshaft. I've looked up the internet, and the only pictures I see are ones with 8 holes in them. And another engine I have off the TR7 in there has 8 holes. Not in the flywheel because I don't have the flywheel, but there's 8 bolts screwed back in the crankshaft. So the whole thing has me considerably puzzled. But at the end of the day, this is what came off it, and it's been on it for years. And I don't have another flywheel, so it's going back on. The great problems of it's fantastic that we can still buy parts for these old cars, but they are remanufactured stuff, and nice little things like having written on the clutch plate, you know, flywheel side or gearbox side or whatever. And of course it doesn't, but I've dug out an old one that came out of it, and it is written on it, so I could work it out. But and that is one of the downsides of a lot of the reproduction stuff. It hasn't got those nice little things on it that make life easier. This is a Sprint sort of half shaft, I think it's called, and sort of lining up the clutch best you can. For that to happen, that either stripped or shed. The difficulties of this engine just keep going. Well, I've had bolts strip out in all sorts of places, but I can't say I've ever had one in the flywheel. Look at that, it worked. Oh, before the gearbox goes on, this thing's got to go on. Oh, this shaft's got to go through. It works the sort of bearing that pushes on the clutch. Years ago, and replacing clutch componentry, that fork that's on the shaft, this holds it in place, and that rusts up in the shaft. Pretty hostile environment in here, and so that sheared off, I think, when the mechanic, this was way back when I first got a Dolomite, and the mechanic was working on it. That's how long ago it was. And it couldn't get that off. I couldn't get it to even sort of rotate once this sheared off. And they get oxy and cutting that off altogether. Of course, in those days, you'd go to the wreckers and find a wrecked dolly and get parts, but these days you'd have to have it made, I think. I've already put a new bearing on there quite some time ago in preparation for all this. I don't know if these things are available anymore, but I've had a few of these break over the years too. That's how much break in sort of fall in half or anything. These lips come off. So, I hope that this won't rust itself in there in the future. Even though, good chance I'll never pull this apart again. But I may have to bear the proceedings here. I think it's going to rain on me. Yes, I have had a horrible thought. The slave cylinder is just here and it pushes on this like that, and there's a pin go through there. Now the pins wear out, but that hole there has elongated as well from memory, and I was going to get the welder to weld it up so I could re-drill it so it was a nice tight fit and you wouldn't get the play in the clutch. And I've either forgotten to do it or there was a reason but I don't remember what it was. So that might bring this whole thing to a bit of a standstill. We're in lockdown at the moment too, so might be a long standstill. This is the bit that goes in and that goes on sort of like that. Slave cylinder. This is worn to all hell. I think I was going to try and buy a new one of these and I can't. And there's a fair bit of slop in there and a massive amount in here. Maybe twice as much as that. So that brings the whole thing to a stop. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Tune in, same duck time, same duck channel, for more mechanical mayhem on the poor old dolly. This component here is going to have to be fixed. Hopefully I can weld it up and get this pin to fit better. But that doesn't stop the gearbox going on, but what does stop the gearbox going on is the corresponding part here on the shaft that goes through the gearbox. That has not as much movement as that, but still more than wanted. So that'll have to come out and I'll have to get it to a welder depending on lockdown and depending on a whole lot of factors. So yeah, tune in next time. Might be some time away. I'm Quack McMullard. Bye for now.